because although I may have started 10 feet ahead of someone else, the reality is I'm still a Black woman. And it is very, very hard for us to raise capital. And if we didn't have those programs, we didn't have leadership that was helping us protect those programs, I will be honest, brands like MVAAFF wines would not be able to scale and to become profitable businesses, a profitable business. And if we can't close the wealth gap, there's a lot of things we won't be able to do. So I think there is also just this inherent stigma about what exactly it is we're talking about. And I'm a testament, and I'd love to be a case study for what it is we're talking about and why it's so necessary. Why we have to protect it. Quiet the noise, the fake news. So a lot of fake news around what it really means. At the end of the day, we have to close the wealth gap.
We have to close the wealth gap, and we have to just start critically thinking, because there's only organized lies and fake news, because anything that comes across the timeline is now perceived as truth, and people just eat it up like pudding and regurgitate it as such. And then if they don't agree with something that is a fact, they now just call it a lie without even bothering to see it as a lie, because they just don't agree with it. And I just say that as a journalist, because I'm constantly seeing people call things fake news, and it's like verified research, just because they don't agree with it, and it's become a dangerous thing. But I've gone off on a tangent. Sorry, fake girl talk. Fake news is a trigger for me. We're in an election year, and you saying fake news actually is Lisa's right there. You know, we are in an election year, and whether I'm not interested in talking about whether people are a fan of Kamala or not. What I am interested in is recognizing that there is a distinct misogynoir around her. There is a distinct attack around her because she is both Black and woman. She is both Black and South Asian, and it is coming with a level of threat and targeting that is very specific to us as Black women. And I just want to hold space for what's at stake and what we're all thinking this election year, like how we're feeling and how we're going to fight forward to prevent a very absurd, obscene, and offensive candidate that I cannot believe we would even allow. I'm not shocked. I wasn't shocked the first time he became president, but I am just going to be allowed this to happen. Like, how it's just by design that this country continues to choose the worst possible trajectories. And that doesn't mean there's lots of hope and lots of love and lots of possibility, and I'm ready to fight. But how are you approaching this election season? What can we all be doing better to support one another and raise the level of consciousness towards voting? And I'll say to my young radicals, I'm not voting because I want to uphold imperialism or I don't know history. I'm voting because, yes, it can indeed get worse. So,
I'm going to jump in. I'm keeping my energy high. And I think what happens oftentimes when you're dealing with the absurd, the blatant absurd, is sometimes your energy can go real low. And that's what we've seen. Unfortunately, we can operate at a low level or we can operate at a real high level. And we know what we can do when we operate at a high level. So my energy is high. I'm from the Bay Area. Kamala's from the Bay Area. My mother was Kamala's mother's nurse. And so there's a special tie there. And I am keeping my energy very, very high. And I intend to energize young people. They need to be energized. I've had some very concerning conversations with my son, who's 30 years old. And what I would say to anyone in this room is you need to be talking to those young people between the age of 18 and 30 and even 35, because they don't get it sometimes. Not all of them, but some of them. And so, we said we were gonna be vulnerable. I had a very real conversation with my son the other day, and I said, do you understand what's happening here? Do you get it? And there were parts of it that he did not. And so I'm starting with the young people. I'm keeping myself open. I'm answering more DMs than I ever have in my life. It's not my thing. There are young people sliding my DMs, asking me questions, and I engage them. And then the first thing I get to is, are you voting? What do you need to know? I'm here to support you in getting yourself to the polls to vote. And so my energy is very high around this election. And I am focused on the win. I'm not focused on anything else. And so that's where I'm at.
I think one of the things, to your point, keeping that energy high, because it was, for me, extremely low, right, before, 2 weeks ago. Because it was the desperate need of now what? Because our future is at stake. Our young people, whatever they're doing, and so engaging them, to your point, is a critical part, because it's for them. The future is for them. And, our only black job right now is to vote. One black job right now. Don't get fired, right? So be encouraging young people to vote, just be in the game, be aware of the stakes from the top all the way down to your local elections is a critical part, because that shifts the decisions for judges. We know kind of the path that it takes all the way to the top. And I'm hopeful, in the spirit of keeping that energy up. Just now, more people are talking about it. They're not dismissing what they see, and we see a lot right now. We hear a lot, and hopefully we can just encourage people just to be very thoughtful and mindful of the decisions that we make, because the future of our country, the future of our children, the future of the world really is at stake with this election.
For sure. And I'm gonna say one last thing. We have to meet them where they are. Some of the things that I was having to talk to my son about were very uncomfortable for me. But that's where he's at. And so we have to meet these young people where they are. You listen to music right now and what they're talking about, it can be real uncomfortable. You have to meet them in the conversation where they are. It's the only way we're gonna get them to hear us. I think a lot of us are in our little bubbles, right? You can be on your bubble here on this island. But the truth is there is a swell and a lot of conversation amongst young people that may be uncomfortable for us, but this is the moment that we got to break through and meet them exactly where they are.
Yes, and yes, I think there is one black job. There's also one white job, and I think we,
One job, right? One job.
We have a lot of white people around us in our world who need to be accountable for this country also, and I think we get to hold them responsible for standing alongside us and being responsible human beings. If they want to be in a world where their children are going to be protected, because I think also important to remember the canary in the mine, right? It's one day, this segment of the population is being, attacked and demeaned, and the next day it's your child who all of a sudden you realize you have a child who identifies as transgender. Whoops! Guess what? You could have seen that coming. So it was okay when it was, last month, and it was somebody else's other, and this month it's yours. And so I think I was listening to Dr. Bettina Love was on a panel last week down here that I answered, and she said she has a white friend who is serious, and this white friend, this woman, every single moment that she has an opportunity, she reminds whoever she's around, friend or stranger, of their accountability, right down to being in the post office. Someone asked for her for a pen, and she turned to them and she said, "Who are you voting for?" And she said she was not going to give up that pen until that person responded to her and said who she was voting for, and she had an opinion about that. I think that's okay. I think if we're serious, that's what we need to do.
I think not only is that what we need to do, it's being in bubbles that let us to 2016 in
Right.
the first place.
Right.
It was the comfort of these bubbles.
Right.
And as much as I fight and will always fight to center Black joy and Black lives, we have to be about fighting for each other. We have to be like the white lady with the pen. We have to be willing to see each other as our sister and brother and sibling. Because there is no liberation if someone is under. If your freedom rests on someone's neck, that's not freedom. I want to ground us. I think they're trying to get the visuals together, but we started with joy, and I like to tie up the circle with beautifully resisting. Voting is a beautiful resistance. It really is. I love my young radicals. I too was a young radical who thought I knew all things, and as you get older, you don't know nothing. But voting really is a radical act. I want to do something I did yesterday on a panel with beautiful brothers for the Disruption Dialogue for the good Dr. McKeever. I know we're all new sisters here, but we are sisters, and instead of each person sharing what makes their life a beautiful resistance, which any of you can do, if you find Shani and Michaela around with their cameras, they'll get you a beautiful resistance and we'll share it. And we'll give each of yours as well. But right now I want to take some space and just give each other our flowers. So I will have start with Nakiba giving Ingrid her flowers. What makes Ingrid a beautiful resistance?
Ingrid, your beautiful resistance is your courage to decide that you are going to follow this dream that you have, and be unapologetic about why or what, and do it with so much joy and compassion and fearlessness that might not always be real, but it actually matters for those of us that are watching you, that's what you're leading with, because that's what we need to see, because it helps us when we have our fear, and that is beautiful.
Ingrid, what makes Adrian a beautiful resistance?
Thank you. Adrian, what makes you a beautiful resistance is that you chose to go solve a problem. That makes you a beautiful resistance. And I can feel your passion about that problem that you want to solve. And you're not done. I can tell there's a few more problems that you intend to help solve. And so, thank you. Because that's a selfless act. Never once when you were talking about the pivot and what, you never really mentioned yourself. You talked about everyone else. And so, thank you for your selflessness and for seeing others, taking up space for all of us. And that's a beautiful resistance.
Adrian, what makes Nakiba a beautiful resistance?
Kiba. So thank you, and thank you for your bravery that you shared your story about the many different lives of the Kiba that you've led without flinching, and it just flowed. And I think oftentimes we don't get the opportunity for flow because we're used to, or at least coming from parents who had one job and worked that job for 30 years. But you've lived different lives and let your light shine in different spaces, and may have motivated someone else to say, if she made a shift, then I can shift. If she can tap into a different nuance of herself, then perhaps I can do it too, with grace and dignity, and I'll use the term fearlessly, to just shine a light on everything that's possible. So I think that's your beautiful resistance in terms of just saying, I can do whatever the hell I want to do and do it beautifully.
I want to thank all of you and all of you for living your beautiful resistance and sharing a beautiful conversation with us. Don't leave just yet, because it seems like they may have fixed our visuals.
Can I share one more story, which I think is important for everybody here?
Absolutely.
And you triggered it or inspired it because you talk about the selflessness. It literally has nothing to do with me, and I encourage everybody to do this if you have the opportunity. There's a saying that history identifies, unifies, inspires, and gives you a purpose. I had an African ancestry DNA thing done where they trace your mother's DNA. The mitochondrial DNA stays the same. You'll keep passing it on through the woman's gene. I found out that my family was from Sierra Leone, from the Mende tribe. Within the Mende tribe, there's a secret society. I see my Mende sister, okay. There's a secret society of women called Sandy, S-A-N-D-E. Their purpose was to usher in the next generation. They provided the rites of passage ceremonies for their community. That's what I do. And so that's why I'm like, well, whatever it is, I have to do it. It's my calling, it's my passion, and I encourage you, if you're just wondering, what am I supposed to do, who am I? That grounded me in what I do now and inspires me to just be able to see and help everybody grow to what they're doing. So it's just my little one tidbit that I could say. My dad, who's Muslim, and my mom was Christian, would always say, learn your history. And all of this that we're experiencing, it won't even faze you, because we've been fighting for a long time, and the fight will continue. And the beauty of it is, you're still here, and you're still here, you're still here. We're all still here, 10 toes down for the fight. So I just wanted to share that.
What I always like to remind people is that if you woke up today, you are possible and you are enough, and we can do this again and again and again, because we have and we always will. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you.
Return to the audience. We got visuals? We got visuals?